Equity Mates.
I will say this about investing. Everything you do learn is cumulative. What I learned at 20 is useful.
Welcome to another episode of Equity Mates, or should I say, hey you cool cats and kittens, buckle up. You've just hit play on another episode of Equity Mates, the cinematic odyssey where we navigate the twisted, thrilling highways of investing. Whether you're a wet behind the ears rookie or a slick Warren Buffett-esque shark, we're here to blast away the obstacles from your first dollar to your big fat dividends. First timers, welcome to the show. You're in for a ride. Now, my name is Bryce, and as always, I'm joined by my equity buddy, Ren. This is a tough one.
No, it's not. It's Carol Basket.
No.
Hey, you cool cats and kittens.
It's not bad. I don't think I would have got this one. Would you have got? Well, you did it, Sasha. So.
Oh, I did it. ChatGPT did it. I just tried to go with something along the theme of the episode.
Okay. I kind of tuned out after you said, hey, you cool cats and kittens. And I actually Googled who was the woman in Tiger King. Because
you thought you had it. Yeah.
I actually got no idea.
Yeah, I was going for a movie. I asked ChatGPT for an iconic movie director.
So
Yeah, it's Quentin Tarantino.
I've never heard him say, hey, you cool cats and kittens.
Yeah, me either.
Neither.
Anyway, the purpose of that, today's theme is the episode is in celebration of dumb money.
I should have got the movie theme. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. And we're going to be looking at some of the biggest short squeezes in history because, as I said, today's episode is in celebration of Dumb Money, a brand new comedy from the directors of I, Tonya, based on the insane story of GameStop, the short squeeze that absolutely went wild.
Yeah. That was, what a time. Meme stocks, GameStop, it was epic.
Yes, it was epic. Now, the film features an insane cast, including Paul Dano, Pete Davidson, Sebastian Stan, Shailene Woodley, America Ferrera, Seth Rogen, and more. And it is only in cinemas October 5th. So, Equity Mates, we have tickets to give away to the advance screening on the 20th of September, so it's not long. We will include a link in the show notes for you to enter. We have 25 double passes per location. We've got Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, and Brisbane. So if you are in
25 times 4 locations times 2 tickets per pass.
200
tickets.
200, yes. So if you and a friend want to check out the movie before it hits cinemas, check out the link in the show notes. But Ren, today we're going to cover off what is short selling, what is then short squeezing, and then have a look at some of the biggest short squeezes in history.
Yeah, this is going to be all the information you need to be the smart person in your friend group explaining the movie to them. What GameStop was, what the short squeeze was. So this is going to get you up to speed and ready for either your advanced screening on the 20th of September or your screening from the 5th of October. A lot to cover, but Bryce, let's start with the very basics. What is shorting?
Shorting is the act of buying or borrowing stocks with the intention of reselling them back into the market with the intention of buying them back at a lower price.
Even more simpler.
It's taking a bet that a stock is going to go down in price and making money from it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Most of the time when we invest in stocks, we want it to go up in price and we make money if it goes up in price. Shorting is the opposite. You make money if it goes down in price. You're explaining one way to do it, where you borrow the stock.
So I go to you, Ren. Can I borrow your Alphabet stock?
Yep.
For $10, and then I sell it into the market at 10.
At 10, yep.
Yeah. And then I hope that it goes down to 5, at which point I then buy it back at 5.
Yeah.
And then I take the difference.
Yeah, or even simpler, you say to me, hey, Ren, can I borrow your Alphabet stock for 6 months? You get it, day one, you sell it for 10, and in 6 months, you buy it back and give it back to me. So I get my Alphabet stock back. You sold it for 10 and you hope you can buy it back for less.
Yes.
Unfortunately for you, in that 6 months, Alphabet says, hey, we just invented Google Bard. You might have heard of AI. Stock shoots up to 100.
Unrealistic example.
You still have to buy it. You still have to buy it
20%.
back.
It's sunk 20% when they release Bard.
But okay, fair enough. And then as a shorter, you still have to buy it back at whatever the price is. So in that case, if it runs up to 100, you didn't do too well.
No, I lose money.
So that is the very simplest way, short selling. Now, these days, there are other ways you can short. So you don't have to borrow stock and then sell it and buy it back. You can use options or derivatives. You don't need to worry about the how. You just need to worry about the what, which is making money if the share price falls.
So that's shorting. But Dumb Money and the GameStop saga is about the short squeeze.
Yeah.
So that brings us to unpacking what a short squeeze is. And it's all in the name. It's when there's price pressure on the stock, pushing the price up, so that is squeezing all of those short sellers in the market to the point where it's hurting them so much and they're losing so much money that they have to sell.
Yeah. And what happens when a short seller says, all right, I'm out of this trade, is take your example of Alphabet. You sold it at $10 and then at some point you have to buy it back. And the Alphabet stock is going up, and you're like, I'm going to hold on. I still think I'm right. It's going up. I still think I'm right. And eventually you say, all right, I'm out.
I'm done.
But what you do when you say I'm out is you have to go and buy the stock. And so if a stock is already going up and there's people buying it, and then all of these short sellers are like, all right, I'm out. They then add to the buying pressure, which adds to the price momentum, which pushes the price higher, which means the remaining shorts are feeling squeezed even more. And so what you have is this effect where, like, a virtuous cycle of more and more people buying the stock and then being forced to buy the stock to get out of their positions, and the price keeps going up, meaning more short sellers are forced to buy. And especially when a stock is illiquid or there's not a lot of trading volume,
GameStop.
There's only so many people that can buy the stock at any one time because there's only so many shares traded each day. And so Bryce, the short seller, might have to sit on the sideline for days, sweating bullets, seeing the price right up, trying to buy as much stock as he needs to then return it to me, who lent it to him.
Yeah, there's no guarantee that you can quickly get out of your position.
And that's a short squeeze.
And that's the short squeeze.
Yeah.
And that is what happened with GameStop.
Yeah.
The fascinating thing about GameStop, if you aren't across it, is that it really sort of transcended into pop culture and sort of conversation outside of the investing community, because it was driven by people sitting in their rooms on Reddit, and an army of shorts, well, not even an army of shorts, an army of Redditors decided to get together and squeeze the short that was on the GameStop stock. Yeah. And it was a David versus Goliath moment.
Yeah. So before we get into the Reddit details and stuff like that, and the movie will do a lot of the heavy lifting there, so we won't get too much into it. But GameStop, people might not be familiar with this company, especially if they're listening in Australia, but you would actually be more familiar with it than you think. So GameStop is the world's largest physical retailer of video games. It was a great business maybe 10 or 15 years ago. It's less good business now because you can buy games online without needing like a physical CD-ROM to put in the PlayStation, Xbox, computer, whatever. And so these stores are under pressure. But in the US, GameStop is the brand. Also in Europe. In Australia, it's EB Games. Now, you guys are looking at me blankly, but at home...
I've bought one game from EB Games, which was Far Cry.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, on PC. I'm a PC guy.
So, people have probably actually shopped at GameStop's Australian company, EB Games. So that's essentially what the company is. And if you think about EB Games and the transition it's gone on in Australia, it's gone from being a massive seller of video games, always plastered with the like 50% off, everything must go all the time, to now it sells like game related merchandise, you know, like toys and Pokemon cards
trading
and stuff
cards,
like that.
Yeah.
Not as good a business.
No.
And that is why there was such high short interest in GameStop.
Yeah.
And it was the shorts were actually more than 100% of the register, because like a lot of them were like leveraged options and derivatives and stuff like that. And that was really the insight that started this short squeeze. And it was famously the hero that we didn't know we needed, but that we deserved. Or is it the other way around? That we didn't deserve, but we needed. Roaring Kitty, Reddit user Roaring Kitty, who saw it, started making content about it and posting it on Reddit, and inspired an army of retail traders to take on the biggest and deepest pockets in Wall Street.
Yeah, and to really spell it out, essentially all they did was start piling into the stock to drive the price up. And as we've just explained, that starts putting huge amounts of pressure on everyone who's shorted it.
Yeah. Let's pause there because we don't want to ruin the movie about what happens next. But what happens next goes from Wall Street to the halls of Congress to...
Yeah.
It even had me on the radio at one stage explaining it. That was,
It's true.
I was probably the biggest winner from the GameStop saga.
A lot of people made a lot of money from it and lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's not the only example, Ren, in history of the short squeeze. There are some pretty notable ones from companies that are very well known over the last number of years. So let's take a look at some of them.
Yeah, and I think these examples put into context how big GameStop was. Because let's go through these examples and then share some of the numbers on GameStop.
All right, well, Volkswagen, one of the biggest car manufacturers in the world, back in 2008. The ticker, by the way, is VWAGY, for anyone interested.
In the US, in Europe, it's different.
Over the
but
counter, yeah. They briefly became the most valuable company in the world when its market cap peaked at $370 billion thanks to a short squeeze.
And while GameStop was done by retail traders, do you know who did the VW short squeeze?
Porsche.
Yeah,
a competitor.
Yeah.
They would come in and go and see ya.
So about 13% of Volkswagen's shares were held short, which compared to about 5% for an average German stock of that size at that time. So like pretty big short interest, which Porsche saw, and then they could drive the price.
So they came in, started buying. So their 52-week low was $41.50. Then Porsche came in, started buying. They hit a 52-week high of $232.30. So a gain from low to high of 459%.
Yeah. And it's a massive company to begin with.
Yeah.
And it briefly became the most valuable company in the world.
So that those people holding that 13% short would have been feeling it for sure.
Yeah.
And as in most situations, though, the stock recovers. Their 2-year returns from that peak down 87%.
Yeah.
Not good.
Not good.
No.
So that's one example, quite a famous one. Tilray, lesser known company. It was a big cannabis stock in the US. I say
Massive.
It was, still probably is.
Well, I just remember it being one of at the time where, when would it have been? 3 or 4 years ago, cannabis was the hot trade. It was, and everyone was like you got to buy the producer, you got to buy the consumer. And Tilray was always one that was popping up.
I just looked up its share price. It is still listed. I'll tell you what its share price is
awful.
after we go through 2018.
Let me guess. When we get to that point.
Yeah. So in 2018, it's 52-week low before the squeeze, $21.50. That was the share price. It was massive short interest on Wall Street because it was like a buzzy investment theme. People didn't believe in it, so a lot of people would short it. They got squeezed. It ran up to $300 a share, which was more than 1,000% increase. From peak to trough, 1,295% increase. So you more than 10 bagged your money. You more than 10x your money in less than a year. Pretty good. You'd be happy with that. From there, 2 years after the peak of the short squeeze, down 92.7%. So you gave it basically all back. Now, you said you wanted to guess the price today.
Yeah, I reckon it. So it was a low at that time of $21.50. I reckon it's like $4.
Yeah, so $21.50 up to $300 today, $2.98.
Oh, ouch! Yeah, that it's really come out of flavor. Favor.
We could say
lost its flavor.
Go for it. While Bryce figures that out, one other one. Now, your hero, Martin Shkreli.
No.
Farmer Bro.
No.
Do you know him?
Yeah.
He bought like a super niche,
jacked the price like 1,000% or something.
Yeah. It was like was it a diabetes drug or something? It was something that people needed.
Yeah.
There was no like
alternative.
Yeah. And bought it. The company massively jacked up the price. Went to jail, but I don't think he went to jail for that. I think he went to jail for something else, securities fraud or something, allegedly.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, but he went to jail. I promise you, he went to jail. He also bought. You know how Wu-Tang Clan did the One of
Vinyl.
One album?
Yes.
He bought that.
Yeah. For $2 million, wasn't it?
Potentially.
Yeah.
Anyway, Farmer Bro Martin Shkreli, before he was Farmer Bro, orchestrated a massive short squeeze in a biotech company, Callo Bio's Pharmaceuticals, which is now called Humagen, still listed. So this is back in 2015. Before the squeeze, the 52-week low, 36 cents. The squeeze ran the price up to $45.82. That's a 12,557% increase. So you're more than
Oh, he would have made so much money.
you're more than 100x your money
That's nuts.
in less than a year. More than 100 times your money.
And now where's it at?
Well, so 2 years after the peak, it was down 94.4%. So you gave a lot of it back. It's now 1.6 cents.
Wow.
It's got a market cap of $1.5 million.
Wow.
So think about that. So 36 cents up to $46 down to 1 cent.
I mean, if you get out at the right time in these things and you happen to be on the positive side, which is the squeeze, you can make a hell of a lot of money in a very, very short period of time.
Yeah. It's a real sign that oftentimes the short seller's thesis is right. It's like this company isn't a great company. Its fortunes aren't great. But when too many short sellers have that view and get into the stock,
Easy pickings.
what then happens is there's a like that creates the risk. And even though your thesis might be right, you can get squeezed.
Could you do it? If enough shorts got together, you could do a long squeeze.
That's just shorting.
Yeah, but like to really drive it down. Or is it...
That's just selling. Like
Yeah,
that's
exactly. Yeah,
Like
you couldn't actually do it because you're not selling. You're just borrowing.
no, you borrow and sell. So like when you borrow, you then sell. So that puts selling pressure. And if enough people are all selling at the same time, that'll drive the price down. So you could that's just a coordinated short.
But I guess it's a
It
different
would be
mindset for long people.
It
as
would be
well.
illegal.
Long investors are like, sweet.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if it would be illegal. I imagine it would be illegal for a lot of short sellers to coordinate their selling. But I guess in a sense, that's what activist short sellers are when they write the report, take the position, write the report, release it publicly. That's how they try and drive heaps of selling pressure. Yeah. So to recap, Volkswagen 459% up, Tilray 1,295% up. This Farmer Bro stock 12,557% up. Big numbers. Take us to GameStop.
Well, GameStop had a 52-week low of $2.57. Struggling online games company. Well, not online, struggling games company. The short squeeze came in, threw it up from $2.57 to $483. Now, that is a gain from low to high of 18,693%. So huge. Where are we at in terms of the where are we now, I guess, Ren?
So 2 years later, so a lot of the companies we spoke about down like 94%. GameStop 2 years later was down 72%. So it not as bad. It hadn't given it all back. 2 years later, it was around $22. So if you bought at the low, $2.50, you held all the way up, all the way back down 2 years later, you still would have 10x your money, $2 to $22. It's fallen a little bit more from there. It's now at about $19. So you're still up from where it was pre-short squeeze, which is, I guess, a little bit different to a lot of these other examples we're talking about.
All right, so spoiler, it's probably going to be in the movie, but to put these numbers in perspective, you said at the top, Ren, Roaring Kitty was the Redditor who orchestrated this. The stats are that he put in an investment of $53,000 and walked away with over $30 million.
Wow. Respect.
Yeah.
Good on him.
Huge. Absolutely huge. So if you're interested in seeing the movie, we have tickets to an advanced screening on Wednesday, the 20th of September in Perth, Sydney, Brisbane and Melbourne. Link is in the show notes for you to enter, and we will let you know very shortly because it's just around the corner. But Ren, let's close out the episode by having a look at some of the most shorted stocks on the ASX at the moment. And maybe we could orchestrate... No, we shouldn't orchestrate a short squeeze.
Well, I think it's worth... Let's talk through and then talk about could any of them be squeezed? Because it's something that I was Googling, like what percentage of the register needs to be short before you can start thinking about a squeeze. There's no magic number. So let's talk about what that...
It would all be relative, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's the answer. It's like how liquid is the stock? How big is the market cap? How much is traded each day?
Yeah.
Because like the best squeezes are when shorts can't get out. And so like every day, all the available stock that is being sold is being bought as people try and get out, but they can't.
Yeah.
And so then it just keeps like this just unstoppable momentum as people desperately try and get out each day and they can't.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you couldn't short squeeze Apple because it's so liquid.
Yeah.
Like no one could, even if it was like 50% short,
Yeah.
like the
So
trading
much
volume
trading.
would still be massive.
All right, so the list of 10, starting with the most shorted first, and this is one that is I reckon is always in top 3, is Flight Centre.
Yeah.
10% of their stocks on issue are shorted.
We should give a shout out. This is thanks to shortman.com.au.
Nice.
Well, I mean, like, I think this data's hard to come by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Flight Centre coming in at number 1 at about 10.3%. Syra Resources at 9%, coming in at number 2. Elders coming in at number 3 at 8.9%. Few more resources. We've got Pilbara, 8.5%. Lake Resources at 8.5%. And then IDP Education, 8%. Number 7 is JB Hi-Fi. They're always up in the top 10 as well, 8%. Brain Chip, 7.8%. Imugene at 7.6%, and then 29 Metals Limited at 7.4%. So a fair few resources in there, a couple of retail, one that's in the AI space, and then Flight Centre. It's always up there.
Yeah, yeah. So nothing that compares to the setup for GameStop. But, you know, Volkswagen was
12 or 13?
13%. But I think they had a couple of big chunky like shareholders, one of them being Porsche, I think. And so like those chunks of shares weren't being traded.
Yeah.
Whereas like I haven't looked at Flight Centre's share register, but I don't think there's someone that owns like a third of Flight Centre and is just sitting on their shares and not trading them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one. Shorting is an investment strategy. It's one that is not looked on favorably by a lot of people, even government. But if there are some very successful short sellers out there.
Yeah, and I think they play an important role in the market in terms of catching frauds that regulators and other market participants don't catch. Like there is a long list of examples where short sellers have done a great job of clearing out things that needed to be cleared out. And like, you know, Mark Cahota's over in the US is the classic example of that. He is a dog with a bone when it comes to shorts, and he will spend years of his life trying to convince the rest of the world that a company is a fraud, and he will often eventually be proven right, but take some time.
Yeah.
So I think there's always a role for short sellers. I think what we're going to see in the Dumb Money movie is the other side of the equation, not so much the altruistic fraud catchers that are trying to, you know, make money, but also point out problems with the market. I think we're going to see more opportunistic, let's kick a company while it's down and bankrupt it and try and make a buck along the way.
Yes.
But I haven't seen the movie, so...
Well, if you haven't seen it, Ren, you have the opportunity to, in celebration of the launch of Dumb Money, the brand new comedy from directors of I, Tonya. As we've said, it is based on the insane story of the GameStop short squeeze. Tickets are available. All you need to do is click the link in our show notes. It is 20th of September, Perth, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne. Make sure you don't miss out. We've got 25 double passes or 50 tickets per venue. So get around it. And if you can't get enough Dumb Money moments, go over and listen to Get Started Investing, where we, this week, hear some amazing stories from our community about their dumb money mistakes.
And share some of our own.
Although
you keep telling me you've
list.
never made a mistake with money.
That's not true. You're about to find out. Anyway, we'll leave it there and pick it up next week.
Sounds good.
You have been listening to an Equity Mates Media production. In the spirit of reconciliation, Equity Mates Media acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. This podcast is intended for education and entertainment purposes. Any advice is general advice only and has not taken into account your personal financial circumstances, needs or objectives. Before acting on general advice, you should consider if it is relevant to your needs and read the relevant product disclosure statement. And if you're unsure, please speak to a financial professional. The hosts of this podcast and their guests may have positions in the companies mentioned. Equity Mates Media operates under an Australian Financial Services Licence 540697.